Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most insane plugins I ever tried was DrMS by Mathew Lane. Now why I'm mentioning this specific processor, even though this is not a widening video, because DrMS was made by Mathew Lane. That company came up with another plugin called TiAMO. What is TiAMO? It's basically one-of-a-kind multiband dynamics processor. And I'm not saying this because this is an ad or something. This is truly something we don't really see, and I personally never saw something like this before. It operates in a very unique way, and of course you'll need some time to adapt to using this processor. Now let's jump into the video and see what's TiAMO about. This processor is very unique, and it operates basically like none of the other plugins you ever tried. It's basically a 3-band compressor, so I would like to start from simple things and then going even more complex and complex. As you can see, you have 3 bands right here. You have the low, you have the mid, and you have the high. Each of the band can feature its own compression style. As you can see here, you have titanium as the default setting right here. This is the init. Once you click here, you can choose your specific compression style. Each of them will sound different. Some of them will be darker, some warmer, some brighter. It depends on what kind of sound you want to compress or to just polish, or if you, for example, want to bring some of the details up from your signal, for example, vocals. So this processor would be used on subgroups, on mix buses, in mixing overall, and in mastering. I personally like how it sounds in all the situations. Now once you select a style right here, compression, let's go with, for example, oxygen. We have this tightness section, this tightness button, we have the dry and wet knob, which basically functions as a mix knob, we have the gain. As soon as you move this knob up, you'll be increasing the amount of that kind of compression you're going to introduce to a specific band. So you can do this for the lows, for the mids, and for the highs. And while doing this, you can monitor the overall gain reduction right here. So this is very simple, this is something you're used to when working with compressors. You can also solo each band. Now this is where TiAMO gets a bit more complex, and this is why it's so unique. It's based on sidechains. As you can see here, you have sidechain A, sidechain B, sidechain C, for low, for mids, and for the high band. And the goal with using this kind of sidechaining within compression is to get the best possible results and basically alive dynamics. So that can be ranging from classic 3-band compression, over de-essing to musical pumping, advanced groove, creation, and many more things. And what these sidechain faders and all this sidechaining section actually does to your audio. You can define the impact of each sidechain, whether it's A, B, or C, resulting in the trigger signal for the tightness engine of that band, so for the lows, for the mids, or for the highs. Each of the sidechains can contribute positively or negatively to the trigger signal in that band. So that means I can go to the positive values or to the negative values, so the negative sidechain, which is unique. And the goal here is balancing the sidechains against each other for organic dynamics or basically creative triggering. So that's the overall goal with using TiAMO. And the best possible way to get the most musical results is to try combining these faders to your personal taste. Now I set all my mix faders at 0. So now what this means is that the combined trigger signal from A, B, or C has a low level in that band. So that means TiAMO will be opening the tightness far enough, and this will result in a continuous gain reduction for this specific band. This creates a starting point for negative triggers from a sidechain mix as a sort of inverse compression, which is very different but also related to expansion and gating. Now it's highly important to remember that you can solo the band or you can sidechain listen. You can basically listen to the sidechain signal that's actually going to be used to trigger this specific band, which is super helpful when you, for example, want to make sure you get that perfect blend from the sidechains and from the bands themselves. Now let's imagine you adjusted the TiAMO and you don't quite like the results and you want to start over. You can start from their classic mode, which is again a classic 3-band compressor. You can just click this set button right here. So here's how it will bring it back to the default values. Now I can start over with the sidechains or with the classic compression we might want. Now a great thing about TiAMO that I personally really enjoy on plugins are the crossovers. You have crossovers right here, or you can unlink this and set them separately depending on how you want your audio to sound and what kind of sidechains and what specific frequency ranges you want to affect for a specific sidechain and for the specific band. This is very handy when you're working in mastering or mix bus or many different applications. Again, it's a very flexible plugin. So now that I covered all the important things and how TiAMO actually works, let's jump in to some audio examples and let's hear how TiAMO will sound on vocals, on mix bus, in mastering, and what you can actually do with this specific processor. So this is how I set TiAMO on vocals. I used hydrogen compression style on my midband, which is relatively natural or basically invisible compression, very transparent, and I used oxygen at the top, which is a very airy and smooth compression, which is a very nice touch for that upfront sounding vocals, and I also blended the amount to my taste. Let's hear how this sounds.
A fever burning hotter than the sun. Don't you know you're my number one? Rushing over me, I can't forget the way my heart races with every breath.
The first thing you could notice is how tight the vocals now sound and how balanced they sound. This is the effect you can achieve with TiAMO. Very upfront, but at the same time very tight and balanced vocals. When it comes to drums, I'm that person that really likes to make them sound very snappy, very punchy in the mix. That's why I used all the bands. I also adjusted the sidechains to my personal taste, and I went for different compression styles on each of the band. I went for titanium, which is a classic tight compressor, which can be used on any source to make it a bit more round and a bit more analog sounding. I used the bold right here, which basically makes a bold statement, which is great on drums, on pianos, on different kind of instruments. And I used oxygen again on the top end, which gives me that airy feel to the very top end, which works magnificent on drums. Let's hear how this sounds. As I mentioned, TiAMO can be used on mix bus or in mastering. Either way you choose to use it, it's absolutely a great processor for that specific purpose. I use this one on my mix bus. What I did here is, again, I affected the low, the mid and the high band, but with different settings. I played a bit with the sidechains, as you can see here, and I have TY Gentle, which is a bit gentle version of the titanium, which does just wonders for mix bus and for masters. I use that for the low and for the mid band. For the high end, I use the nitrogen, which represents a warm and round compression, exactly what I want for my highs, just to emulate that round effect that we all enjoy when listening to different tracks. And I went very gentle with compression, so please pay attention to how the master becomes a bit more polished, a bit more bright, and just a bit more warm and round.
Hey, I thought I was down to nothing, God was up to something. Thank you, Jesus, sorry, Satan, I know that's a touchy subject. Freely I receive, freely I give, I do not got a budget. I've been frank with Satan like the president, I'm on 100. I just kicked another demon like it's kung fu. Jesus is the one I run to, Satan's who I run through. Never would've had to come up if my God ain't come through.
And the last thing I want to mention before we end the video is that in collaboration with Mathew Lane, the creators of this plugin, I created, and my studio engineers, we created some presets that you can use as your starting points, and those are the presets you heard in these audio examples. They work very great, and I'm definitely looking forward to your opinion on them. So hopefully this video helped you to understand what TiAMO is about. It was such a pleasure to support this kind of a plugin because we don't necessarily see these kind of processors every single day. This is something very unique and something you definitely want to have, especially if you want to go a bit more professional about your career. Make sure to check out our other videos and see you in the next one.